Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to week 6 of our Ohio Educational Theater Association Back to School PD, Getting Your Theater Program Online. Tonight, we are excited to be talking about producing a virtual musical, and my friend Katie will be on here in a second to introduce our presenter. We also, next week, we have, it jumped 2 slides on me. 2 weeks. Next week, we have Best Practices for the Virtual World of Theater with Gay Jones. She'll be joining us from out in California. And then we wrap up with our last session, session 8, the first week in October, which is Making Theater Happen Even During a Pandemic, Virtual and Digital Rights and Flexible Season Planning with Rosemary Butcher and Gabriela Morales from Concord Theatricals. We also have one more announcement to make this evening, and that's just that Ohio Thespians Lead is going to be postponed for right now. It was originally scheduled for the beginning of October, and we're going to push it back into November just to give our STOs some time to get everything planned and let our thespian troops get a chance to have their first meetings of the year now that everyone's back in school and figuring out how to do hybrid meetings with their online and their at-home kids. So if you're an Ohio troop director, you can expect more information to come out in our newsletter about Ohio Thespian Lead and when that's going to take place. So that's everything I have to update you about. So I'm going to turn things over to Katie Arbor, one of our board members, and she's going to introduce our presenter tonight and take things from here.
Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Arbor. I am, yes, on the board with Justin, and I'm also on my 13th year in theater education. I'm currently at Milford High School in Cincinnati, and Mr. Chad Weddle, a good friend of mine, is just right down the street at Anderson High School, where you have been for 21 years. Is that remembering correctly?
Close, 14.
Oh, 14. So you're
it's a derivative of 7, so it's fine.
There you go. Well, you know, I have COVID teaching brain right now, so bear with me. But Chad and I have become very good friends in collaboration and just sort of digesting, you know, ideas with one another. So Chad, last spring, when we headed into COVID, took on a huge task in creating an online virtual musical with La Mancha. So I asked Chad if he would come here today and tell us a little bit about his process and the outcome, and would you do it again? Would you not do it again? What would you do differently? All those great things. So I'm going to head it over to Chad.
Okay, thank you, Katie, and thank you, Justin, for putting all this together. I want to start by saying, you know, thank you, and my hat is definitely off to all of you who are now teaching, whether it be in the classroom, virtual, or both. And or whatever your situation is. Mine is certainly unique. I'll get to me in a second, but I just wanted to say, you know, that this is extremely difficult. And we have been doing everything in our power to make this entire process enriching for students. And I know that you probably are in my boat where you're just kind of scratching your head daily, trying to figure out how to make this work. Especially because we rely upon human interaction and we rely upon intimacy, and both of those things are extremely strained and difficult to do in these times. So my hat's off to you all for teaching and for helping our kids through this, because at the end of the day, that's what we do as teachers, is help our children to understand the world around them. And so, you know, I'm hoping that we're doing a lot of that and trying to teach our content, but you know, that is our content. So I just wanted to start off by telling you a little bit of a history about me and my program, only because it will lead into how we were able to produce a musical during the pandemic in the spring, and why we sort of had the, I don't say luxury, but we had all the tools in place to get there. I also kind of want to tell you a little bit about me, just so you understand what's going on with me and why, you know, I may never do a virtual show again. And I know it's gonna be weird. You're like, wait a minute, I'm here to learn how to do a virtual musical, and this dude is here telling me not to do this. But there's kind of a dramatic ending to all this as well. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. I'm also going to share with you about a 12-minute video after I go through that on the making of the musical, so I can let my students kind of, and there's a little bit of me, sorry, also kind of take you through the process, because it's a lot more interesting to watch that and see all of their faces and hear their words than hear mine, just because I'm sure, like everybody else, you're sick of this. So tired of sitting on Zoom calls. So at least I want to make it interesting. And then I have 3 big questions for us to discuss tonight, because if you're anything like me, you're probably in limbo and trying to figure out what we do from here. Because when we decided to create Man of La Mancha last spring, that was a reactionary decision. We were reacting to a global pandemic with students who deserved, at least in our opinion, deserved a spring musical and deserved a capstoning process, since we had known them for, some of the students I had known actually for 14 years. I had worked with them even before they were in kindergarten. I had known these kids for a long time. And so I felt like, we wanted to do everything we could for the kids. But now that we're in a proactive place, and now that we're in a place where we can make decisions while in a pandemic, it's a totally different situation. So I have some big questions at the end that I'm going to ask and want some actual discussion to take place. So let me kind of get into this. Let me sort of present myself, my program, and then that way we can get to the root of this. And I don't expect there to be answers tonight. I just hopefully can be some connections and maybe a little bit more clarity on what it is we should be doing with our students. Okay, so let me kind of just jump in. Like Katie said, I've been teaching theater and now film both at Anderson High School, which is in Cincinnati, for 14 years. Before that, I was an actor, and I went to Miami University and got my theater degree, and then went to New York and was an actor for a while, and then went back to Ohio State and got my master's in theater education, and then started teaching at Anderson, like I said, about 14 years ago. Anderson's a pretty unique place in the fact that we have always really celebrated the arts, and arts are just as important as athletics and academics. And I have been around to many schools where that is not true, and had many conversations with theater educators at conference that tell the tale of the arts not having the same clout as athletics or academics. And it is not true at Anderson High School. And that is because I inherited a very rich program where the artists and the teaching artists before me really made sure that the arts were celebrated. I've loved my position. I love working at where I do. I love everything about the students, and I've really enjoyed all of my time there. But in the process of teaching theater, I'm always a teaching student. So I wanted to be learning something. And since film was a passion of mine ever since I was a kid, I learned through my students how to teach film. And I developed over the past 10 years a film program as well. So we have a fully functioning film program that is not a broadcast journalism program. So a lot of high schools will have a news channel, and it's kind of handled separately from the theater program. This is all storytelling. It is entirely dedicated and created by this theater dude to storytelling. So our film program, like I said, has been up and running for about 10 years. And so when we were in the process of trying to create and making the decision on La Mancha, you all need to understand that I have a ton of students who know how to film. They know cameras, they know lighting, they know sound, and more importantly, they know how to edit. And this is just a part of our program. And so that's something that you need to realize before you jump into a virtual musical. And the way that you're going to see our virtual musical take place is not probably what you're expecting. Because it wasn't like we were able to get together. We had to do the entire musical from our living rooms. It was when we were completely isolated. And so it's going to be maybe a little bit different than what you're thinking for this fall or this winter or this spring. But we were in a place where I had tons of resources, meaning cameras and editing equipment and all of that stuff. In addition to that, we also have a gigantic theater program. My program is, we're in a medium-sized school, so we only have 1,200 kids in the school, and every year the spring musical tops out at 165. And 90 to 95 kids, so about, I don't know, maybe 60, 65% of that is tech. So our tech program is unbelievable. And that is just because when I took over the program, we really focused on tech, and I said, and I made it just as important as acting. And then I hired a tech director that also believed that. And so from there, we have created this tech program that's just a monster. It's awesome. Like, and people talk to me when I tell them we have 95 kids on tech, they can't believe it. They're like, what, how? And so if you want to ask me about that or the film program, totally fine, and how all that happens. We also have 2.5 full-time faculty members. I know you're probably like, I hate you now. I hate you. So we have, yeah. And so we have 2 full-time teaching theater. We have 10 classes that we teach between us. And then we have another full-time faculty member that teaches English, but I said half-time because he is a producer and he helps direct. And so we have a lot of faculty that work in the theater department, which is usually not the case. I'm sure that you're probably in a place where you're the entire theater program. And so, yeah, so I tell you all that not to make you jealous, but to also just to make sure that you understand that it's a very rich program. We have a lot of resources. And so we had a lot of things going for us when we were trying to make Man of La Mancha. So that's a little bit about that. I'm going to save my big dramatic piece for the end because I didn't want it to overshadow what we did in the spring, because what we did was awesome and amazing. But I will spoil it a little bit and tell you that I'll never do it again. And I will never encourage you to do it either. So you may be like, this is weird, what's happening? So I'm just going to press play. I'm going to do my best to do what I was supposed to. And we'll start at the beginning because it's a very good place to start.
I've always had this saying that if you can impact one person, or if you can change someone's outlook on something through the art that you create, then it is pretty much worth it to put it on.
So we are announcing today that children of the state will have an extended spring break.
The moment that this all started,
that day was just the worst. I was in theater, 10th bell.
I was at school, like 10th bell, during Mr. Weddle's class.
was when we were sitting in our theater studio class.
We were watching the news.
Paige walked into the room, and we were just sitting there, and we were like, oh my God.
I didn't even know really what to feel.
I sort of went through every single stage of grief in the course of like 2 days.
I just remember everyone at once being so upset.
I just kind of felt, like the show had died.
Nope, you gotta wait for the windmill dance first. Oh, God.
I mean, I think it was all just about having a hope that we might go back. Everyone knew we wouldn't, but there was just a small part of us that was like, we might go back. We might have a show.
Well, we still thought that there was a chance.
And we did have hope for the show going on. So, I mean, we met like every day and worked really hard to act like we were in person and try to block everything. So we did the best we could for that week.
We were all concerned because we're like, what if we are doing these practices for nothing? Already starting to think about into the future, if we don't go back to school, how could we still put on the show?
As it became clearer and clearer that not only were we not allowed to come back and gather as a small group and have rehearsal or performances, but that we wouldn't be able to have a live audience as well, no matter what we were trying to do. So essentially the big decision came down to two things. Number one, would my students want to do an online version of Man of La Mancha, or would they want to quit and just throw in the towel and say, if we can't do it live, then we shouldn't do it at all? Well, it started with the actors to see if they would even want to be able to continue and to explore this. And through the conversations and through rehearsals, many of them were nervous.
So at the very beginning, when he started bringing it up, I was like, no way. I was like, I don't want to do that. I was like, I want to be in person with these people, and I want to, like, you know, sing the songs in person and interact with people.
I don't know, I was a little concerned because I was like, how are we going to pull this off?
But they definitely wanted to do something. So they weren't sure as to what the vision was, and they weren't sure if this was going to be successful, but they were sure that they wanted to work together and do what they could in order to present some form of Man of La Mancha to the public.
But I was also excited that we were still doing a show and that we could still all spend time together.
But the more I thought about it, I was like, why not? Like, we have, first of all, nothing else to do. Like, we have so much time. I want to keep on seeing these people. I don't just want to drop this project and, like, not see these people ever again.
So while I was disappointed that we wouldn't get to do it full out, I was really, really happy to have something to work on.
At that point in the process, the technical students got word that we were moving forward with an online performance and that we were not going to be including them. And so there was a really bad day in Man of La Mancha.
A lot of people interpreted is that there was going to be very minimal tech in the show at all, and all of the crews would be doing, you know, a very small, if any, amount of work.
I realized that because you guys were not all together having physical meetings and conversations with each other as much as you normally do, especially among the crew, the normal communication among the students was not happening. So kids were hearing rumors from somebody who had talked to Chad at the tail end of a rehearsal, but not actually hearing what was happening themselves.
Because so much of technical theater is based on hands-on work that they would have to then give to somebody else, which is obviously not what we're doing in this time. And so we came up with a way for each and every single technical student to be involved, albeit it was going to look a lot different than their original job title. Many students got on board. We had an emergency meeting with both the technical kids and the actors. Both of them lasted about an hour. I cried at both of them. It was a very emotional meeting about moving forward with this musical, because I knew the emotional content and I knew the level of emotions within the students were extraordinarily high, as well as mine, in leading them through this journey that I knew was going to be extraordinarily difficult.
But I decided to stay on because there was something that I could contribute to the show, and it was the build crew aspect of, you know, helping actors with their green screen, which is a simple thing, but it was something to do, and it was still theater, and it still had the same people. And then, you know, I've liked editing, so I said, hey, I can edit, and that now that's what I'm doing.
we're not in person with each other and we're not performing the show as we thought we would to the full extent, but like we are trying our best, and I think that's all that matters. So I'm glad we're doing it and we didn't just give up, because I definitely regret it.
I got an email in my inbox, all caps, emergency actor meeting, and I go, are we done?
Like, we're like, are we having a show still? Like,
I literally thought they were gonna cancel the show.
Like, what happened? Because at this point, I think we had 4 actors quit.
The emergency actor meeting was just kind of, we all felt a little bit tense, I think, because it was after a decent amount of the people had quit the show. But in that meeting, Mr. Weddle really just lifted our spirits by telling us, you guys are going to do this, you're going to get through this, and it's going to be a great piece of art. And a lot of the actors just spoke up and all reassured each other that it was the right thing to do and that we would be there with each other throughout making it, and that it would at least give us an experience to continue to spend time together.
When the Inquisition comes in, we had the prisoners and we had everybody coming in from high above to the left and then coming down. So it would be stage right to stage left.
The filming process was very long, and it was a lot of like hard work and logistics and figuring out certain specific details.
So they were long. The filming itself is like 13 hours split between 2 days.
We spend hours over a Google Meets call just talking about, all right, this scene, you have to look this way, at this angle, at this person. This person's on this side of you. Oh, you have to cross here, but you can't actually cross. So what are you going to do? So it was just talking about how we can make this work and how we can act together without being together at all.
There's opportunities to just go to the dressing room, our virtual dressing room, and hang out with your friends.
I spent a lot of my time in the dressing rooms just talking to people, which was nice. After so much time in isolation, and I was dealing with stuff at home, it was really nice.
Our setup was really weird because we don't have like professional like filming gear and stuff, but it was really cool to see how everyone like has these crazy setups and stuff to put their phones on.
We went forward with making Man of La Mancha as a virtual product.
I think that doing this virtually like we're doing, it's helping me improve my skills in more ways than usually theater does.
It also taught me a lot more about filming, which I knew nothing about.
There's some kind of theater going on. I want to be a part of it no matter what.
Everyone here really is a family, and I didn't want to leave that, like, especially now.
I think it just makes me love what I do even more and makes me appreciate the people in this program even more.
And to have theater to help me know that there's some light at the end of the tunnel, it's been huge for me, and it's really helped me grow as a person.
I feel like we have changed the way that stories can be told. We have changed the way that we can create a musical together. We have changed education, and we did it. What you will see here tonight is a musical like you've never seen before. Not only have these students created a musical in their bedrooms and basements, but they have brought in as many technical elements and collaborated with designers and assistants and crew members like never seen before. We have brought in musical elements. We have sung our songs, done our dances, done our acting, and all of it has been done independently and yet collaboratively. We hope that you enjoy our version of Man of La Mancha. It is certainly not what you expected, but what we hope is that something that you will enjoy, and as a celebration of our community and our dedication to the arts. Please enjoy Anderson High School's Man of La Mancha. Alrighty, so I want to, sorry y'all. Alrighty, let's see. All right, let me come back to you. All right, so I just wanted to share with you that just to give you an idea of, what the musical was, and then I wanted to give you a little tiny sample of what it looked like at the end. What you can see is that it's a little bit different than a Zoom musical in the fact that we attempted and were successful in putting students together via green screen and putting them in frame together and creating a very cinematic musical rather than multiple squares that you would see in a Zoom meeting, and acting that way. Not that that's bad. It's a great way of presenting a musical. It doesn't feel like a cinematic moment. And since this is film, we wanted it to feel much more like a movie. And then obviously we had the difficult part of trying to edit all that together, which is extremely difficult. And I myself edited a portion of that. But yeah, and so you can see that it is as close to a cinematic moment as we can, and that we could accomplish. All the backgrounds we used were created by students, and all the tech was done by students, even though it wasn't necessarily created by them. They designed it and then it was given to them. Anyway, and we did the whole thing. So the whole musical is done. If you want to, after this, if you want to go and look and watch the musical, feel free to. We did the whole thing. Every song, every dance, every moment. We had horses. So we had CGI horses.
You're crazy.
Yes, and crazy. And so anyway, and then the postscript to this musical is that the day after it premiered, I had a heart attack, a major heart attack, and I died. And I know that sounds like you're like, what? You died? Yes. So I, at 4 o'clock in the morning, I had a major heart attack. My wife kept me alive until emergency services came to our house and took me to the hospital. And I woke up 4 days later. And so this summer has been a summer of rest and recuperation for me. I am not in the classroom currently. I have a long-term sub until I feel ready to go back into the classroom. The amount of stress and the amount of anxiety and the amount of pressure was immense, and trying to get that ready in time. I'm not saying that doing a virtual musical will give you a heart attack. What I'm saying is that it happened to me, and so that was the postscript to the story. Is that, like I said, the day after that premiered, it happened. And so what I wanted to do now is I wanted to, since it's 7:30 and since this is an hour total, I wanted to talk with all of you and answer your questions if you had any about the whole process. But I wanted to start with one big question. I have a couple. But the big question that I have for all of us is, should we be producing musicals and plays online? Should we, in any capacity, be trying to create these musicals, in any form? Because I have yet to see a musical or a play online that really captures what theater is supposed to be, which is a live experience. And even when professionals do it, it still feels and falls flat, and it doesn't feel like the show that I want to see or that I expect to see. So I guess I just need a little bit of help. I would like to see everybody. Is it possible to see everybody? Like, is it cool if we can like see everybody, or are we just going to?
I think so. Justin, is that possible?
Well, I can give everyone the ability to talk, and if I do that, they have the ability, at least it doesn't automatically turn on their camera, so no one freak out. I can give you the ability to talk, and then you guys can turn on your cameras if you want.
Yeah, you don't have to. It's fine.
So participants, because I get you guys are used to 6 weeks of like coming and not being seen. So feel free now if you want to make sure your camera is muted. But I'm going to give everyone the ability to talk because Chad, wanted to have more of this conversation. So I'm allowing people to talk. So we're going to see like everyone kind of show up here as we go.
Okay, cool. Yes, talking
permitted. We are open to everything. So, and again, like if you guys don't want to talk, you don't have to turn anything on. You don't have to turn your camera on. We just, want to give you the opportunity. So, and you guys can turn your microphones on or whatever if you have questions. I know, Katie, you asked the first question. I'll turn my screen back on, which was some film resources and things like that. And we'll kind of let Chad take that, but feel free, guys, if you have questions, raise your hands, that kind of thing, or throw questions into the chat box. That way we're not all talking over each other, but we'll go and try this out this way.
Okay,
awesome. Cool. And Chad, this is a different Katie. It's not me.
Okay, yes, I see that.
Yes. Katie, are you here, my darling?
Oh yeah, I'm here.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, I totally lost my Zoom. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I was just, my school does not have any film resources and whatnot. So as far as like starting, like I know this year, and I've just been putting it off because of all the other things that are complex with the online learning. But I do know that putting on a pre-recorded show, that is something that I need to go over. So I'm just looking for even any resources just to get started, or like the basics, go from there.
So yeah, and that's what I started this, the conversation before I, presented that, is that all of the film resources that I have and everything that I have at my disposal has been 10 years in the making. I started with my booster group buying me a Mac and Final Cut 10 years ago. And then every single year I have spent not all of them, but any extra resources that I could when we had a good year in the theater, and bought a camera or bought another computer. I've also had hold on one second. Hey guys, I'm so sorry. It's okay. And so I've spent a lot of the theatrical resources in getting film resources for our department. And like I said, I grew a film program out of the theater department. And then I've also had a really great district who has gotten behind me and provided a lot of film resources as well. So when we dove into the classes and me teaching film classes, because right now I teach 5 film classes, and that is new. Like I taught 1 film class 7 years ago, and now I teach 5. And so with the addition of classes, they wanted to make sure that the classes had resources. So, that's also been a work in progress. But yeah, in terms of like resources, I mean, like I guess I want to know what you mean. Do you mean yeah, do you mean the gear that I have, or the training that I have, Katie?
More just like basic acting for camera and like maybe basic, I guess mostly that, just for my actors, just to give them a little bit of knowledge.
Yeah, so acting for the camera, right? So my history is that I took classes in New York when I was there as an actor, acting for the camera classes. And then I also did film acting when I was in New York. So I had a personal experience with that, and that I brought to the table when I started teaching film acting. And so the resources, YouTube is a wonderful place for you to start. There's tons of actors that will get on there and do series on the differences between theater acting and film acting. And so, Don Cheadle's got a really good one. And there's a ton of Inside the Actor Studios that you can watch too, if you wanted to take your time with that. But the biggest thing we always tell our actors is that you have to contain everything to this little box, right? Theater is so huge, and we spend, years with our kids trying to get them to fill that box. The theater, my theater seats 700. So we try to get them to be big and huge and, get everything out, right? And share that with the 700 people that are sitting there. And then when you are acting for the camera, it's like, no, this is very intimate. You have to contain everything to the box that you're given. And you have to understand your box, if it's in a mid shot, a wide shot, if it's a close up, and you have to understand your moments. The other big resource that we always talk about is practicing acting for the camera. I think that a lot of students especially feel that they hear that actors don't rehearse, so they don't have to. And I'm like, dude, you are not there. You are not a professional actor. You are still learning. So we spend a long time rehearsing, as much time as you would for a play or a musical. So if you're planning on doing any type of film work or television work with your actors, make sure that you're spending the time with them, and then have them watch themselves, and and they'll give the immediate response, which is, I hate myself on camera. I hate the way that I sound. And I'm like, you need to start to love that. You need to start loving yourself, because that's what you're presenting.
One thing, if I can chime in real quick, Chad, one exercise I've done with my students, because right now I'm fully in person except for one online class, and I have the students do monologues and make sure that they recorded themselves doing it on Zoom, and then self-critique with me to partner with them, because anyone who knows me as a teacher, I'm very big, I'm very loud, I'm very expressive, but that does not translate for me as a teacher on Zoom. So that was a really good place to start, to show them how to modify for the screen. So that could be a fun first exercise for them to start getting used to looking at themselves on the screen and sort of reflecting back on how they expressed, how large they were. So that's a good fun place to start if you wanted an idea.
Yeah. And then I saw some 3 people had some questions in the chat, which I can address real quick. And then, I'd like to get back to the, should we be doing this? Because that's the big basis of the conversation. I think that I'd like to have is not how to do this, but should we be doing this? And what is the best practice right now? And before you jump into producing an online musical, let's stop before you start and really make sure this is what we should be doing, based on somebody who's been there and done that. Should you go on this journey with your students? So let's see, green screen tips and good camera. So green screen, and then somebody else asked me about green screening. Okay, it's a nightmare. Let me just tell you, students cannot green screen themselves, okay? The only things that work really well are actual green screens. So unless you're planning on giving and purchasing that many green screens and giving them out, it does not work well at all. This screen behind me is not going to work very well because of these shadows, right? You see these shadows right here created by the chandelier? They are not going to read in your editing software. They're going to have pixels behind them. And lighting is such a huge thing. And so lighting is also extremely difficult, and students don't know how to light themselves very well at all. And right now my lighting is atrocious, right? Sitting in front of you, see this glare of my glasses and all the shadows on my face. So that also creates hella problems when it comes to those questions. When it comes to cameras, so my number one thing is will people who operate these cameras, do they understand how they work, and do they understand things like focus and autofocus? So I always tell my students, you know this better than anything. And so I always recommend they use their phone, because they can get, not only can they get a relatively good quality video and audio off of this without having to do separate, but they also can share this very well. I had several students use a DSLR, and then they ran out of space on their SD card, and they were like, oh, I'm out of storage. We can't continue. And I'm like, we have to, we're filming right now. And they're like, oh yeah, nope, can't do it. And so there was a lot of problems with DSLRs if they didn't know what they were doing. So I say stick with, keep it simple if you're going to be, utilizing a camera, because this is an all-in-one thing, and you can also share from here as well, because sharing is also a very difficult thing. Talk about trying to get your homework in on time. It was an absolute very difficult process trying to get all of our actors to get us all of their footage labeled correctly and sent to the right editor. So yeah, if you can imagine having 32 actors doing all of this work and trying to get it to the right Google folder, and then having to edit and not having the right footage because they didn't share the right footage with you, or they just didn't film. So we even had that where kids forgot to press record, and we did a whole scene, and then they were like, oh yeah, I forgot to press record. And we were like, all right. And so we couldn't go. And so there were a lot of technical difficulties, even though we knew what we were doing, quote unquote, and we had a ton of resources. So what other questions do you guys have, or may we start going into this question of, is this something that we should be doing?
Hey, real quick, Chad, I was just going to say, one of the things you talked about, like, because the final product, you were talking about green screens and cameras and all that stuff. One of our board members who shared earlier on had made the comment. He said he did something virtual this summer with their program in their schools. And he said the one thing is that he realized really quickly you have to manage your expectations, because you're not going to get that same product and that same feeling you necessarily get doing a fully staged live production. But you get something, and that's kind of the thing where you have to make sure that you're committed to getting something and doing something for your kids, and then realizing that this is starting back at square one, so your first time out is not going to be necessary. He's like, his response, I don't want to put words in his mouth, was pretty much, though, I'm happy that I did it. I wasn't happy with the product, but I have ideas for how to do things differently this next time. And he's like, I'm not giving up yet. But it's that whole idea of that the product is going to be like that expectation, and that feeling is not going to be the same with a digital product that it is live, because like you said, it's not that moment that we're all used to feeling where you've got everyone in a room together experiencing the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not giving up either. It's just, my question is that what should we be doing? I have a former student who is currently not working because he is in the Broadway cast of Wicked. And he called me up and he's like, hey, I'm not doing anything. Can I come back and direct with you? And I was like, heck yeah, let's go. And we started talking. So he's going to come back, which is awesome, right? To work with the students. But he and I both got to the discussion of, well, what should we be doing with our students if it's not a musical, if these musicals are not hitting, and you go through all this really difficult work and you present it and you're not getting the same type of, I don't want to say feedback, but the same type of like payoff, I guess. And he was saying the same thing. He was like, we're not producing Wicked. We're not going to do this. We're going to wait until it's live again. And so we're going to be exploring this in the classroom, and we're really excited about finding what is the proper way, or what is not the proper, sorry, that's a terrible way of saying it, but like, what can we, or what should we be doing within the classroom And if it's not musicals, if it's not plays, then is it monologues? Is it, is it smaller works? Do we start really small, and present very small vignettes and allow us to get through this and trudge through this time until we can have live events again? Or am I just missing it and we should be doing musicals and producing musicals online, and I just need to get used to this different payoff?
I mean, I agree with you, Chad. We actually had this discussion with students at the beginning of the year at Milford, because we were 5 days from opening High School Musical and had to cancel. We didn't go virtual like you did, just not enough staff or knowledge or what have you. And then I started thinking about this coming year, and I'm like, I really, you feel guilty as a theater teacher and director that you need to be doing something to justify your job and to justify why you're there. So my creative team and I'm the only person at my school, so my creative team is all people that are brought in. We are doing 2 shows this year. Our musical will be live streamed. Now, what I have found about live streaming is that MTI and many production houses are doing a live stream license for $75, and you can stream as many times as you want. Obviously, you're still paying for materials, but the rights are just at $75. What I found is that there are many local companies that this is what they do. They stream. They have all the equipment. They come in, they set it up. They do multiple videos. It's their staff. They'll help train the kids on fun things. So check your local resources for things like that. Those people do exist. As far as my fall play, it's I had picked Alfred Hitchcock, a live radio show, which would have been very easy to live stream, but I thought a little bit more outside the box. And I was like, I wonder if I could get my kids inside a radio station to actually do this. I reached out, and we're partnering with iHeartRadio in Cincinnati, and they're giving this experience for free because they believe in arts education. They believe in this experience for the kids. They're going to do all the editing. They're going to do everything for us for free. So we will actually be doing it as a radio show as opposed to a live on stage. So I tend to think that we can do a lot of unique things for our kids to have a different type of performance experience. Because if you can't have your audience there live to make the ticket sale.
Oh, Katie, I think your mic cut out again. We've had this problem a couple times. I don't want to talk over, but just kind of to fill the space for me, I'm looking at it. Our school has 3 giant tents that they've set up for instruction that I haven't really asked yet, but I'm pretty certain if I ask, they won't care if we do something in the evening. And so I'm thinking we've got these 3 tents around the school campus. And we also have this portable stage that is stored backstage that we always have to move every year when we get to Tech Week and move into our show. And I'm thinking if we set up the portable stage outside, we've got 3 tents, that's 3 kind of stages. What type of show could we do, whether under one of those tents and socially distancing our audience, or can we use all 3 and do like 3 segments or something where it's like 3 different audiences that watch different parts of something? I don't know. I'm just starting to get into these ideas, and we've only been back at school. This is our 3rd week. And so I haven't had a chance to even meet with the kids and get their ideas, but trying to throw around ideas where there's some type of possibly outdoor for us while we've got these tents might be something that we might be able to pull off. I don't know. I'm just trying to like think outside the box, just because online is hard and daunting. It's kind of a scary thing at first, not to scare anyone away, but it's just kind of like looking at resources. I'm also seeing, with being on the board, seeing other schools. I know there's one of our board members is opening up, or they've been rehearsing and teching there. They're doing one of Don Zaldalis's shows, and they're doing it outdoors. And they've got a company that's coming in and recording it, and then they're also going and just kids, all that stuff popping in. But they're doing they're performing it for their cast and crew's families, and then having it recorded to stream out to people as well. So, I mean, there's just, it's all options are on the table. I think it's whatever your school is willing to do and support. I also think, and whatever you can clear with your health department, because that's the other thing people have to remember, that now we have licensing, and then you also have to run anything where you're going to put people together. Just play it safe and run it by your local health department.
Right. And, and we're, and the thing is that when we got through this experience, and we sat with our team, we came back afterwards, and I run a film camp in the summer, and, all of us got back together again, including myself. I was only there for like an hour because I was under rest and recuperation, but, we did have 2 weeks of live filming again, and it was wonderful. And, we're going to have an event for that in October. And then we're starting the Scottish play, with all of the governor's mandates and stuff like that in October. But we're not planning on doing anything online. We're planning on doing, like you said, we're doing things live. And I know that it's 15% capacity. So yeah, we're, I think our athletic department, they have a company that films the football team and all that stuff. And they volunteered to come in and film us. And we were like, yeah, we can do it ourselves, but cool. If you want to do it for us, that's awesome. But yeah, we're not planning on going back and doing a musical online again. And so I guess my question is, if doing something live, which is, what we're planning on doing, is not an option, if you have if the flu season hits and we go back remote again, and you're stuck in this situation again, I just wanted to see if we felt like this was something, because somebody put in the thing, we have to give our kids something to hold on to. And, rewatching that video, when we were making it again, it was reactionary, right? So like we were thrust into this in the middle of Mana La Mancha. And so we had to make a decision on to carry on or shut down. And we may be in a similar situation if we decide to start the Scottish play, and then all of a sudden cold and flu season hits, and, we're sent remote again. We're going to be facing another situation. And we've decided as a team not to carry on virtually. So I just, with the last 8 minutes, I wanted to hear from you guys and see if that was, I just wanted to see if that was something you wanted to. I see Erin would like to comment.
Yeah, Erin raised her hand. Yeah, Erin, go ahead.
Hi, I'm auditioning to do a play completely virtually for the first time ever right now. And I've just been incredibly blessed. I've got a crazy number of freshmen who are actually interested right now. And I thought recruitment was going to be a total bust this year. But there's actually like 6 or 8 freshmen, which is a big deal for me with my program, interested in auditioning. And when we had our virtual troop meeting, when I talked about this, it was just so good to see smiles and to see them with something to look forward to. And like, I'm not taking it lightly. I fully believe I could be very close to where you found yourself also. Like, this might kill me, but I don't know. I feel like we're all gonna die somehow, right? It might as well be doing something good. So.
Oh, Erin. Yeah, I mean, when you've got kids, that's the thing. Whatever we do, and I keep going back to what Susan Blackwell said last week and what some other people have said, when you find that thing that you're comfortable doing, that, she puts it as what lights you up. But, for me, I'm thinking, what can I do that fits in with my family needs? What fits in with my health needs? What fits in with, kind of my situation? What can I offer? And then from there, I'm thinking, these are the options I can offer the students. And then whatever they're like gung-ho about from that, that's what we're going to go after. If it's trying to do something under the tents and then we get shut down, it's like, okay, hopefully doing something that we can move to a radio play from that kind of thing. And that was one thing I was going to say, Chad, go back and watch our one where we talked with the Ohio Shakespeare Festival, where they talked about transitioning a lot of their Shakespeare stuff into radio drama, just so it doesn't die. I don't know. It is such a hard thing, because we lost our production of Steel Magnolias last spring. And it was small cast, and we were all ready to go and do everything online. And then we found out the rights didn't exist because Sony owned them from the movie in the 80s. But then Sony was gracious and opened up the rights to amateur and high school productions. But by that point, by the time it was open, we were into the summer, and I had a cast of 6 girls where 3 of them were seniors, and they were like, I had to mourn the end of my senior year. I kind of had to lay the play to bed, and we're looking, 12 weeks after, they're like, I don't know if I can get back into that character now. And that is such a burden, for the actors. It's part of the process, but when you've gone through that process and you get to opening night, and that was the day we got shut down. Like, we found out that Thursday in your video, we were literally, the kids were all down on the stage doing final tech, putting finishing touches on the set. And I walked in and just had to say, okay, everyone set your stuff down and let's talk. And then tell them, we're shut down for 3 weeks at least, and it was such a, you don't want to go through that day again. I mean, March 12th, if you're in Ohio, I think for most teachers, it's burnt into our brains. We went back to our classrooms this year and they still were set up for March 12th. But it is such a hard thing. I don't know. I don't know the answer to your question. I think it's as one thing I keep seeing online, the plague shut down the theaters during Shakespeare's time, and he came back with one of his shows. I don't know, it could have been Hamlet, could have been Scottish play, I can't remember, but it's just one of those things. It's like, my goal right now is trying to figure out what can I do that I can offer my students that's healthy for all of us. And it's just, I think, when you have health scares like you've had, I'm currently, I didn't want to say anything, but I'm currently been quarantined for the last 2 weeks because my wife and I have had COVID that we contracted. It's one of those things where it's like, it does send a whole new light into what you're doing. Is what is this, like, what can I do that's worth also balancing with my health? And I don't know, it is kind of a scary situation to be in.
Yeah, and I agree with everything that you guys have been saying about going in and talking with your kids. And I think that is where it needs to be. It has to be that we have dialogue with our students, and that all of us go into any project that we're going to start with an open and honest dialogue, and that it continues. And it has to, and now that we have been through March 12th and everything that happened last spring, I think that we can start off the conversation with, if we don't get to perform, that has to be okay. It has to be okay if we don't make it to the finish line. And so whether that be from, my biggest stance has always been emotionally, and making sure that our kids emotionally and physically and spiritually are taken care of. But also, we also have to take care of the bottom line, and we have to understand that, like, these shows do cost money. And so we have to take care of our budgets, because I don't know about you, but I am on my own. I do not get any money from my district whatsoever. My pot is my pot, and I have to take care of it. And I'm sure most of you are in that same boat. And so we have to take care of that as well. And then, we also found out, like, in our district last spring, when things shut down, they decided only to pay half stipends. So, like, even though we finished our production, they only paid people half of what they owed them from a financial standpoint, because they lost so much revenue. And so, so financially, we have to take care of each other too, especially when we talk about our main stage. And then, like Justin said, because Katie and I were talking about High School Musical, and I was like, you do know that Disney owns the filming rights to that. And so they will probably not release that product. So we have to think about it from that perspective as well, as, are we legally doing the right thing? And so, so I can't wait to get back into the classroom and talk to my students about what they want to do and how we're going to do this. And again, I think the most important thing is open dialogue, and knowing that the finish line, like, it can't be there. It has to be about the process, and it has to be
absolutely. And just to piggyback on what Chad said, so I had to cancel High School Musical last year, and then I was going to try to remount it this fall as a movie musical to keep my cast distant, and I did not get the rights because of the Disney motion picture. Aaron, just to piggyback on what you said, your health has to be your most important thing. And I think that if you're feeling that kind of mental and physical, like, drowning right now and exhaustion, then I think you need to refocus what you're doing, because your students need you, and they need you feeling great, and they would be devastated to know that you were feeling this way physically, and that you were willing to just kill yourself to do this. So I would just refocus a little bit on what you're doing, and maybe lighten that load a bit. Try to do something a little bit more manageable. I think we often right now as theater teachers and directors think we need to make a big splash to prove that we did this during this crazy time. But we have to be aware that, you know, I have a very large program at Milford, but I don't have a lot of tech support. So what am I going to be able to do to just have a good time with my kids? I mean, right now, my kids just want to be around one another and they want to see me laughing and doing stupid things. So like every Tuesday after school we meet, or they can come any day after school if they're there in person, and we just have like a dance party and we do Broadway dance workout, which is on YouTube, and we just have a good time. You know, there is something to be said of just about being together and laughing and enjoying one each other, because we're all that sort of special energy. So I just want you to take that pressure off of you to do something sort of like wow factor, and just sort of take a moment back and realize that your kids want to be with you because they love you, and your health and well-being is so important. And I mean, I'm throwing Chad out there now, but I know Chad would partner with you or give you some advice on what you're doing. You know, you could always, you know, email Justin or myself, but you know, it's hard not to want to do all this, but I took a step back last year because I was doing too much. My hours were crazy. My husband and son were like, you're killing yourself. And I did it for all the right reasons, but the wrong reasons were putting me second and everything else first. And then, you know, you lose yourself, and then you get into problems, and you want to be around to do this for a long time. So I would just say, take a deep breath, refocus that, and let us know how we can help.
And just while I'm looking, because we're after 8, so I don't want to cut it off, but I wanted to say Carrie Mitchell shared a couple things in the Q&A, and I know not everyone might be able to see that. But one of the things is when you are doing digital things, that idea of clicking the link an event. There are a lot of ways, and you can go back and see some of our previous videos, especially the first one where Matt Wolf talked about how producing their filmed production this summer, they, you know, trying to make an event around the premiere and having viewing parties and all that kind of stuff, or being able to have a way when you broadcast that your students are able to talk about, kind of give the director's cut in the what do they call that on the DVD, the behind the scenes where they're talking and you're watching, but they do it in the chat. He talked about that. And then yeah, it's you know, causing us all of this from show selection is being rethought. You know, how much money do we want to put into licensing a show? Do we want to do something in the public domain or something that's smaller? But, you know, even to marketing, it's a whole different marketing and publicity animal when you're doing digital versus, you know, we can't just all go around and post posters around, you know, for the event that's not happening at the school, it's happening online. And so there is kind of that learning curve. So it's really, you know, it's a new world. It really is. And so I think though we'll find ways, you know, theater survives. It's just my biggest thing, I guess, to take away is just, you know, take care of yourself. Think about what you need to do to stay healthy, and you know, what you can do to support your kids in that. Are there any other questions before? Because I don't want to keep people over, but if there's not, I'm going to thank Chad and Katie for joining us this week. And Chad, I know this is very personal for you, you know, coming through what you did and producing this show, and then the health things that you had. And so we appreciate you joining us and kind of putting that out there, those thoughts, you know, because it has been sort of, you know, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And then you need to think about these other questions too, you know, okay, what are we going to do? And, you know, is this the healthiest thing to be doing right now, or the best way to be doing this? So,
yeah. Thank you, Justin. And thank you, Chad. I just want to say, Chad, you know, last year when, you know, we started really bonding over texts and stories and all that, you know, you've been such a great mentor and friend. And I remember you saying that that was a passion of yours to help other teachers and just, you know, share ideas and everything. And that, you know, that's what Ohio Thespians is all about. You know, we put so much on the students, what we need to do for them, but we need to do just enough for us. And reach out to one another and share ideas and support. So Chad, thank you so much for sharing everything. What an incredible journey and experience. You're awesome. And thank you.
Well, and yeah, and I want to say thank you to both of you as well for having me, and all the teachers that are here. thank you for listening to my story. I don't want to dissuade anyone from doing anything that you're passionate about. And you can email me with any sort of advice that you guys need, or if you want to go down this road, just like we said, just make sure that you think about it before you take your journey, and don't let your passion, get you into a place that is going to be dangerous for your students or yourself. But also let's try to find answers to those questions, which is what can we be doing to provide all these great things for our students and ourselves and our communities. So best of luck teaching this year. Best of luck to all of you. I'm very excited about getting back in the classroom. So thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to seeing you all again live, like when we get together again, because that will be coming back. Like, let's not settle into this because it's bullcrap. Like, let's not.
No. I'm over it already. I'm done.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm done and seen. There you go.
All right. Well, I'm going to go now, but thank you so much.
Thank
for
you,
having me. I
everybody.
really appreciate it.
Thank you, Justin.
We'll be back.
Thank you.
We'll be back next Wednesday with Gay Jones to talk about best practices in the classroom. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.